In February 14, 2023, 22-year-old Merlin stepped out into an evening filled with promise, a night of soft candlelight and whispered dreams. But as the hours passed, the scene turned from one of romance into a tragedy that no one could have foreseen. Here, we bring you the story of a night meant for love, shattered by loss. Welcome to the Crime Catalogue, where we explore the truths behind the headlines. Stay tuned, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping crime stories. Merlin Lancaster grew up in a world of comfort and care. As the only child of devoted, well-to-do parents, she knew both love and the privilege that came with a secure life. Her home was one of gentle guidance and high expectations, where every dream was nurtured and every achievement celebrated. At the University of Houston, Merlin pursued a degree in business. Her days were a blend of lectures, group projects, and late-night study sessions. Yet she always found time for the things that made her heart light: fashion, social media, and moments of genuine connection with those around her. Her kindness, intelligence, and effortless style earned her admiration from friends and strangers alike. In the midst of her promising journey, Merlin began a relationship with Crowley, a man who seemed to carry a spark of excitement and mystery. At 25, Adam had a charm that could easily captivate anyone. But behind his warm smile lay a very different story from the one Merlin knew. Adam's early years were defined by hardship. Growing up in a broken home, he faced financial struggles that shaped his outlook on life. Despite these challenges, he had once shown a keen mind for finance, a talent that promised a future free from the hardships of his youth. However, as he stepped into adulthood, opportunities were few and far between. The pressures of mounting gambling debts and the weight of unfavorable associations gradually eroded the promise he once held. In Merlin, Adam saw more than just a partner. He saw the embodiment of a life he had never experienced. The ease, the luxury, and the endless possibilities that came with it. Her social media profiles, her taste for fine things, and the effortless grace with which she moved through her world became symbols of everything he desperately wanted. Slowly, his admiration turned into an obsession. He began to fixate on the life that seemed to come so naturally to her, a life that was completely out of reach for him in his own troubled reality. As their relationship progressed, the differences between them became more apparent. Merlin's world was built on stability, care, and a belief in the future. She approached each day with optimism, trusting that every challenge was a step toward something better. Adam, on the other hand, was caught between the desire to embrace a better life and the pressure of debts and risky decisions. His background, marked by constant financial strain and personal setbacks, was a silent force driving him toward choices he might never have imagined. Friends who watched them together recalled how Merlin's eyes would light up when speaking of her future, while Adam's often shifted with a hint of urgency. The contrast was striking, one filled with hope and the other with a constant reminder of what he lacked. Adam's financial burdens and previous missteps formed a shadow that seemed impossible to shake, even as he clung to the idea that love could transform everything. Stay with us as we explore every detail of this dramatic tale, where ambition, desire, and the weight of the past converged to shape a night that changed everything. By the time February 2023 arrived, Adam Crowley was running out of options. His debts weren't just numbers on a screen, they were a threat waiting to be collected. He owed money to the kind of people who didn't ask twice. Payments were due, excuses had run thin, and the walls were closing in. But Adam had a way out. At least, that's what he convinced himself. Merlin Lancaster wasn't just his girlfriend. She was the answer to everything. Her family's wealth, her trust fund set to mature soon, it was all within reach. If he played his cards right, he could secure a future without fear, without debt collectors circling like vultures. He just needed more time, more control. But then, something changed. Merlin had started pulling away. The excitement that once filled her voice when she spoke to him had faded. The patience she once had for his unpredictability was running thin. She had noticed the mood swings, the excuses, the money troubles he never seemed to fix. And by early February, she had made a decision. She was going to end things. Adam found out before she could tell him. A mutual friend had overheard a conversation, and the message was clear: Merlin was ready to move on. To her, this was about protecting her peace. To Adam, it was something else entirely. If she walked away, she wasn't just leaving him. She was taking away the life he had built in his head. The future he had counted on. And the deeper that thought settled, the more it burned. For Adam, there was no breakup, no moving on. If Merlin left, he lost everything. The dream, the security, the escape from the mess he had created. And if he couldn't have her, no one would. He didn't see another way. February 14th, 2023. Valentine's Day. A night of celebration, of love, of promises made over candlelight. In Houston's River Oaks neighborhood, where luxury meets quiet elegance, a high-end Airbnb stood ready for what was meant to be a romantic evening. The table was set, the wine was poured, and the city outside hummed with couples lost in their own perfect moments. Merlin Lancaster arrived just after 8. The invitation had been unexpected, but thoughtful. Adam had planned something special, something private. A getaway from the noise of the city, just the two of them. She had told friends she thought tonight might be the night. Maybe a proposal, maybe the next step in their future together. She had no reason to believe otherwise. Inside, everything was carefully arranged. A candlelit dinner, soft music playing in the background. Adam had spent the day making sure it looked just right. He welcomed her with a warm smile, guiding her to the table, making sure she saw only what he wanted her to see. The tension in his shoulders was hidden under easy conversation. The weight of his decision pressed down, but he never let it show. They ate slowly, laughter filling the space between them. Merlin's guard was down. She had come expecting love, not danger. As the meal wound down, Adam reached for the bottle of wine, pouring 2 glasses. A small gesture, intimate, familiar. She lifted the glass without hesitation, took a sip, and let the evening carry her forward. But then, something was wrong. A slight cough, a hand to her throat. Her breathing hitched, eyes widening as confusion turned to panic. The air felt heavier, her limbs weaker. She looked to Adam, searching for help, for reassurance. But he only watched. The moment stretched, her body failing her, the truth setting in too late. She tried to speak, to reach for him, but the world around her was slipping. The floor never felt closer. The last thing she saw was Adam, standing still, his expression unreadable. Silence followed. Then movement. Adam worked quickly. He smashed a window, sent furniture askew, scattered drawers to make it look real. A robbery gone wrong, that's what it had to be. He picked up his phone, steadied his voice, and called 911. Panic laced his words. An attack. A break-in. A tragedy he had barely escaped. He played his part well, telling the operator exactly what they needed to hear. By the time the sirens filled the night, the scene was set. The call came in at 10:42 p.m. A home invasion, a woman unresponsive, a man claiming to have barely escaped. Within minutes, police arrived at the luxury Airbnb in River Oaks. The front door was open, the scene inside chaotic. A broken window, scattered belongings, a table set for 2. And on the floor, Merlin Lancaster. Still, silent, gone. Adam Crowley met them at the entrance, his breath uneven, his hands shaking. He spoke quickly, his words tumbling over each other. He and his girlfriend had been celebrating Valentine's Day when an intruder broke in. He heard the glass shatter, saw a shadow move. He tried to protect Merlin, but by the time he reached her, she was already fading. It all happened so fast, he said. He didn't get a good look at the intruder. Didn't see where they went. Only knew that Merlin was gone and that he was lucky to be alive. But the scene told a different story. The officers scanned the room. The window was broken, but from the inside. Glass littered the balcony, not the floor. There were valuables in plain sight, jewelry, a designer bag, a watch on the counter. Nothing was missing. The only thing that had been disturbed was the order of the room, as if someone had made it look that way. And then there was Adam himself. His clothes were tidy, his skin unmarked. No sign of struggle. No bruises, no cuts, no evidence that he had fought off an attacker. He kept his head low, his voice careful, but something was off. His grief was performative, his words rehearsed. Officers had seen genuine loss before, and this wasn't it. When detectives arrived, they started with the basics. Forced entry? None. Any sign of another person leaving the scene? Security cameras said no. The only people who had entered that unit that night were Merlin Lancaster and Adam Crowley. They took him in for questioning. Not an arrest. Not yet. Just a conversation to clarify the gaps in his story. But the longer he talked, the more those gaps widened. He repeated himself too much, adding details that hadn't been there before. The break-in happened fast at first, then long enough for him to react. He didn't see anything, but also remembered the intruder being big. He was nervous, eyes darting, fingers tapping the table. And when they asked about the wine, he hesitated. The toxicology report came back within days. The cause of death wasn't blunt force, wasn't suffocation, wasn't any struggle at all. It was poison, ingested, not injected. The wine had been laced with a substance that shut Merlin's body down within minutes. Quiet, controlled, planned. Detectives turned to Adam's past. His financials were a mess. Gambling debts stretching back years, accounts drained, payments overdue. And then there was his Google search history. A week before the murder, he had looked up the exact substance found in Merlin's system. How much was needed? How quickly it worked? How to disguise the taste? And then came the final crack in his defense. An old friend from college, someone who hadn't spoken to Adam in months. He heard about the case on the news, saw Adam's face, and something clicked. Years ago, Adam had made a joke. It was offhand, casual, one of those remarks you laugh off in the moment. But now, it felt different. The friend stepped forward and told police exactly what Adam had said. There are faster ways to get rich than working. When I saw Adam's name on the news, I wasn't surprised. I wish I could say I was. We met in college, and from the start, he was all about money. Fast money. Easy money. He hated the idea of working for it. A few years ago, we were playing cards, and he was losing bad. He got pissed, leaned back, and said, "There are faster ways to get rich than working." We laughed it off. But looking back, I don't think he was joking. Adam always had an angle. Flipping fake sneakers, borrowing from the wrong people. He owed money, a lot of it. And when I heard about Merlin, about the trust fund, the poison, the staged robbery, I knew. This wasn't some random crime. This was Adam, doing what he always did, taking instead of earning. Only this time, it cost someone their life. By the end of the week, detectives had enough. The timeline was clear. The motive was glaring. The evidence was undeniable. The break-in had been staged. The poison had been premeditated. And Adam Crowley had not been a grieving boyfriend caught in a tragic night. He had been the architect of it. On February 20th, 2023, 6 days after Merlin Lancaster took her last breath, Adam Crowley sat in an interrogation room, hands cuffed, eyes fixed on the floor. The evidence against him was undeniable, the lies he had told unraveling by the hour. That night, he was booked for first-degree murder. The weight of his decisions had finally caught up to him. The case ignited public outrage. A young woman, poisoned by the man she trusted. A staged crime scene. A desperate attempt to cover his tracks. News outlets followed every development, and when the trial date was set, it became clear this was more than a legal battle. It was a reckoning. The courtroom was packed when proceedings began in late October 2023. Reporters lined the hallways, cameras flashed, and inside, the air was thick with grief and anticipation. On one side, Merlin's family. Her parents, broken yet resolute, surrounded by friends who had known her light, her kindness, her future. On the other, Adam's defense team, prepared to argue against the mountain of evidence stacked against him. The prosecution wasted no time. They laid everything out for the jury, methodically, precisely. Adam's financial struggles, his gambling debts, the growing pressure from those he owed. The search history, the poison purchase, the staged break-in. Witnesses testified to his erratic behavior in the weeks leading up to the murder. The restaurant server recalled Merlin's excitement that night, how she had dressed for a proposal she never received. The detectives recounted the moment they realized the crime scene had been staged. And the toxicology report, undeniable in its finality, proved that Merlin had been betrayed before she even knew she was in danger. Then came the most painful moment of the trial. Merlin's parents took the stand. Her mother spoke first. Her voice shook, her words slow and deliberate, as she described the daughter she had raised. The little girl who used to twirl around the living room in her Sunday dresses. The young woman who worked hard, loved deeply, and dreamed of a future she would never get to see. Her father followed, his pain less visible but no less devastating. He spoke of the moment they got the call, the unbearable silence in their home now, the wedding they once imagined replaced by the trial of the man who took their only child. The jury sat frozen. The courtroom was silent. Even those who had no connection to the case felt the weight of those words. Grief filled the space in ways no evidence ever could. Adam sat motionless, expression unreadable. But when it was his turn to speak, the performance began. He wept. He spoke of regret, of mistakes, of things getting out of control. He painted himself as a man who had lost his way, who never meant for things to end like this. His voice cracked, his hands trembled, but the words never reached his eyes. There was no true remorse, only desperation. A final attempt to sway the jury, to soften the inevitable. But the jury saw through him. After weeks of testimony, after hearing every detail, they didn't hesitate. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty of premeditated murder. On December 5, 2023, Adam Crowley was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As he was led from the courtroom, he didn't look at Merlin's family. He kept his head down, the same way he had in the interrogation room, the same way he had when the truth first caught up to him. For Merlin's loved ones, justice had been served. But no verdict, no sentence, could ever bring her back. The only thing left was the memory of who she was, and the life that should have been hers. Merlin Lancaster never saw it coming. She believed in love, in second chances, in the idea that people could change. But love should never be a gamble. It should never be used as leverage. And it should never cost your life. Adam Crowley's actions weren't impulsive. They were calculated. He saw Merlin not as a partner, but as an opportunity. The manipulation started long before that night. Excuses for missing money, guilt-tripping her into helping, using tricks to keep her close while hiding the truth. These are the red flags so many overlook. Not every abuser strikes with fists. Some use words, guilt, and control. And sometimes, that control turns deadly. If someone makes you feel responsible for their survival, emotionally, financially, or physically, that is not love. If they pressure you, isolate you, or guilt you into staying, that is not love. And if they make you feel like leaving is dangerous, you need to run. Merlin never got that chance. But if you're watching this and something feels familiar, don't wait for proof. Trust your instincts. Love should never be a transaction. And it should never ever cost your life. This has been the Crime Catalogue. If you found this story impactful, share your thoughts in the comments. If you or someone you know is in a dangerous situation, seek help. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, real love doesn't come with a price tag. Thank you for watching. See you in our next video.